Hello there, many thanks for joining us here to another episode of the Candid Talk here on Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Evan Sokinyi. Well, I'm glad that you're here with us. As usual, I'm here with Professor. How are you, sir?
Good.
How is it going?
Wonderful. Hot, but manageable.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The effects of climate change, very visible.
Yes.
It's hot, dry, sunny.
And prayers don't seem to be working that much.
Actually, the last time there was a national prayer that was held, that we pray for rain. And I asked him, really, is this what we are supposed to do as a nation?
Some corn bishop was telling people, rain, rain, rain. Come on. Let's stop calling people. You know, God does not like fools.
Definitely. And some people are saying, you guys are mocking God.
A foolish approach to religion is almost sacrilegious. Do what is right. And God will bless the effort of your hand. If you are the president of a country, do what you need to do to improve the quality of life of your people. God will bless you. He will use you to multiply the benefits that you have put on the table.
Definitely. And if anything...
We not have a ruling class that goes on the looting spree to steal everything and thief everything around, and then they go asking God. No, you don't. God will be unhappy with you.
You know, Kenyans were actually wondering, because if at all Christianity is supposed to be traced, or other religion in this country is supposed to be traced, then definitely we'd go back to Israel. Now, if you go to Israel, when they do experience drought themselves, then they come up with measures, serious scientific measures to ensure that they curb that. But here we are as a nation.
We think we can pray instead of doing what we need to do.
Our way out.
God wants you to do, because He has told you sweat, work hard. He has given you a brain to use. Use your brain. Then God will bless the work of your hands. And multiply your thinking ability. Yes.
And if I also saw somebody commenting and saying, well, President, here we elected you. Yes, we elected you, so we do trust. If it is indeed true that you're the God-chosen leader that we have here, then you pray to God and let Him actually bring the rain that you're talking about, instead of involving us all in this kind of scuffles and so on and so forth. But here we are, Prof. Still, the political heat is not actually cooling down anytime soon, as we are witnessing things taking place in the country. I understand the prayers being held in Jivanjiru. I wonder why. But then, leaving that aside, here we are. I saw the kind of attempt by the Azimio to alter their leadership in the Senate was actually thwarted by the political leadership, the tribunal that is actually meant to look into the kind of tribulations and perhaps disagreements within the political parties that are actually granted Fatuma Dulo that order that would bar her from being relinquished of that position, Prof. I wonder, what's your take on what's taking place at the Senate? The minority side justified to demand that they replace Fatuma Dulo.
But it's a straightforward issue. Parliamentary leadership belongs to the party or the coalition. It's as simple as that. Americans have a saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Definitely. So, meaning...
I mean, why are you trying to look for trouble where there's nothing? These things are within the standing orders of Parliament. They are very simple, straightforward things. That it's the party that gives you leadership in the House, and that party can withdraw that leadership. So that it's not an individual doing it. I think the standing order provides for a PG or something like that to be the ones doing it. We have seen progressively our leaders want to rubbish the law at whatever level. And I've spoken against it, and I've said, fine, since you do not listen to my voice and the voice of others, you should wait for it. It will come your way. Yes.
What do you think? What do you think is the intention of perhaps the forces which could be actually behind wanting perhaps to make sure that Fatuma Dulo remains there? Because we saw she was among the delegation of members of Parliament who went actually to pay some sort of visit to the president in State House, and of course the minority side, that is Azimio wing, are saying that now that you're no longer with us, simply you cannot be our leader here. Why do you think the government still needs these people on the other side, but they still want her to retain the leadership in the House?
An intransigent government. People who get leadership and they think once you have leadership, impunity should be your shirt. You want to wear impunity like a shirt because you are in power. Power is transient. It's transient. Many times we think we are powerful, just an illusion of power. The government and its leadership is doing what we used to do when we were children. Ile utadu. You know, the only thing they can benefit from defending this lady so that she remains the minority whip, whatever she's called, is to show the defectors that you are safe. You can leave as me and come to our side. We shall protect you. You can say anything to Raila, insult him, but they will do nothing to you. We are there. We are in power. That is dangerous for the country. Dangerous. And I must tell people, I'm happy I'm talking at my age. And you know, at my age, you just say what you have to say, because when you get to my age, you love your country and you love your people and you love your children and you think about your grandchildren. That is why we are saying the things we are saying. We are inviting trouble. And sure enough, that trouble will come. Yes.
So definitely you're saying that this thing is as simple as just saying, well and good, you are within the minority and it is our right to choose whoever it is that we want
it's as simple as that.
And it's also within our right.
It is not something debatable. There's no room for debate. It's not debatable. It's not something for the court. No.
It's there stipulated in.
And I told Wetangula and his people, when Azimio was the leader, they had the numbers to be the leader, and you grabbed it. You thought you had won. You had not won. You have lost, and you have lost big, because you are inviting trouble, and it is you who will pay for the trouble. Because people like Manyora are just ordinary Kenyans. We own nothing. We'll go home where we came from. Even on foot we shall reach. Pole tutafika nyumbani. Lakini nyinyi mmezoea maisha soft.
Definitely.
Mnazoea kuishi mahali kubwa kubwa. Magari kubwa kubwa. Watoto wenyu wanasoma shule kubwa kubwa. Nyinyi ndio mtaumia, because I want to say this very clearly. Evans, you only enjoy what you are enjoying because there's peace and stability. There is peace and stability because there's law and order. But human beings are animals. If you cut here, you see blood. We are animals. Okay? We are animals by every biological definition. We are just taming our animal instincts to live in a modern world, a modern state, the rational man. This can disappear in a minute if we play around with that which is called law and order. Let no leader do anything that compromises law and order. Let them, don't ever think because you are a senator or a speaker of Senate. But the way I want to remind people like senators, speaker, whether of the National Assembly or of Senate, I want to remind them, you are a very small person. To be Speaker of Senate, that's a very small thing. Senate of a country called Kenya, a dirty, poor, third world country. Even to be the president of this a country like this is nothing. There are many people in the world, if you ask them what Kenya is, they don't know. Kenya? Where is it? It's a country. Where? They think it's the capital of Nigeria. Let me tell you how small we are. If you tell American senators to queue, and members of Congress of America, and the UK House of Commons and House of Lords, they queue all of them. They don't know what you're asking them, one after the other, quietly. Do you know Kenya? 10, the 11th one. Oh, Kenya, yeah. Kenya, yeah. The land of the Mau Mau, yeah. All the ones from Lord. Oh, the land of Kipchoge, Kenya, yeah. Then, even those who know, is it West Africa? Is it? We are such a small country, and we are so poor that when you are Speaker of Senate, you are such a small little thing. Because you are in a capital city called Nairobi, where over 80% of people can't access water. They don't have a toilet. They use flying toilets. So if you are a Speaker in a Senate, in a capital like Nairobi, you must know you are a very tiny little thing. You are not big, so why are you behaving like you are big? We are nothing. We are small people. We are a country that is poor. People are dying. You can't afford to carry your weight around. You are just showing how useless we Africans are. Do the right thing. Don't carry your weight around. because you don't have any in the first place.
No, my question, therefore, of course, this now forms actually the basis of our conversation today. With all these kind of moves that we've seen actually taking place here, the president rushing over to invite those from the minority side to his side here. Of course, we've had him make a number of statements before that he does not want a mongrel kind of government. But that is what actually we are seeing right now. The fact that a number of MPs are now going to the side, yes, and we are also seeing the senators doing the same, and I think that is perhaps what is responsible for what we're seeing right now, that kind of antagony between the members of the Azimio wing right now, who actually want to oust Fatuma Dulu. Are we witnessing a situation whereby the country is going back to the single party, just as was alluded by Martha Karua?
In fact, let me tell you this. So total is the power of the president and the Kenya Kwanza and UDA that if you remove these Raila rallies from the way, the country is basically a one-party state. Yeah. That's what the country is. The country is just a one-party state. And it will not be long before people stop pretending that there's multi-party democracy in Kenya. It won't be long. If the president were to have his way, by 2027, I don't think there will even be anybody standing against him. There won't be a serious candidate standing against him. So we will be witnessing the return to a one-party state. And what will help that to take root is the fact that many Kenyans have given up on politics. And it's not Manyora saying. Last election, we wanted to recruit 6 million voters, new voters. What did we get? Hardly 2.5 out of 6 million. We had 22 million registered voters. How many people voted? About 14 million.
About 14 million.
8 million didn't vote.
Did not vote, actually.
How many people didn't vote in the previous election? 4 million. We had 19 million voters, 15 million voted. 4 million didn't vote. How many didn't vote the previous election in 2013? 2 million. What are you talking about? 2 million didn't vote in 2013. 4 million didn't vote in 2017. 8 million didn't vote in 2022. Do we need to speculate how many will not vote in 2027? By 2032, the president of this country will be elected by 3-4 million people. And it will just be one party. Kenyans are giving up, and that's not good for any country. A country is always safe if there is vibrancy in its democracy and public life. If people take a keen interest in what's going on in the country, then that is a good country. Yes.
Let me take you back to history, Prof. What do you think formed the basis of the previous regime's decisions to actually declare Kenya a single kind of party state? Back then, when a number of political formations were banned and it was only KANU that could rule. Actually, we saw that during Kenyatta's rule. We saw that during the Moi era, the dark ages that are described in the country. And of course, we are asking, are these ages coming back to, is history kind of trying to repeat itself? So what's informed?
The genesis is simple. When we got independence, we had a number of parties divided along certain lines, including tribal lines. When KANU won independence, the narrative then was, we have a young country, let us come together and build it. We cannot afford to have divided attention. And that made a lot of sense. So all the political parties crossed the floor and joined KANU. When KANU was now strong enough, it began engaging in excesses. Then there was a war against the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, who was fighting for the interests of the country in terms of being a nationalist. The biggest beef between Raila's father and Uhuru's father. Jomo was a capitalist. Jaramogi was saying, we need not be communist or socialist, but the land people fought for, why can't they get part of that land? So those kind of differences. Then he was shunned out of KANU through machinations, and he formed his party. A lot of roadblocks were placed in his party, but because the life was becoming unbearable in Kenya, and there were people who are being progressive, Kenyatta feared that these people are going to team with Jaramogi, and therefore he detained people, put Jaramogi under house arrest, banned his KPU party. So then, because Kenyatta was so powerful, nobody could form a party, but there was no law against it. Then Moi came, and people said this was a very good thing. Now that Kenyatta has gone and Kikuyism is ending, people supported Moi. But sure enough, after a short time, he also became a dictator. And then when there was an attempted coup, Moi got so paranoid. And people are now becoming bold. People wanted to form political parties. There was something called CASA. My father was a part of it. And people were really beaten. My father survived because the name this man called Bush is having. My father survived because there was a man with the same name whom they went looking for in the village. He was beaten. My father would have been beaten. So that was a little early, of course. Yes. That was before Moi. But when people looked like they could form parties, people are becoming bold. Moi then moved to parliament and made Kenya one-party state by law, by de jure one-party state, not de facto as it was. So then that's how it was. You were one-party state. You couldn't form your political party, but the pressure came in the 1989-90, when again, because of what was happening in the world, with the collapse of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Cold War, end of the Cold War. Then again we entered into multi-party system. And then the games began, games. Then as we are here, where we are now. It's very easy for a country to go back to single party. Not even by law, by practice. And I've given you the route this thing will take. Many Kenyans have lost hope that you can change the country through elections. That our lives can improve because of politicians. Kenyans are giving up. And then when they are in conclusive elections, when people feel elections were stolen, whether it's true or not, but that feeling is in this country. When you add on these other forces of cost of living and people are just giving up unemployment, people have lost interest in politics. It's very easy for a strong leader like Ruto to herd everybody in one direction, and then elections will be mere formalities. There will be no other. There will be small little parties, but any serious party that can get even 30% of the votes may not be there by 2032. Yeah.
And here we are. These are things that are actually said by. I remember Martha Karua said some of these things back then, especially when the president just made his first move when he actually tried enticing those leaders from Northeastern to join him, and then of course the independent members of parliament to join him as well during that kind of period when he realized that he did not actually have the numbers that were needed in parliament as opposed to the Azimio side. Now my question therefore comes a bit, do you think perhaps okay, what then does this spell for us as a country? What then does it mean for us in case we go there? Is our parliament able to actually do its role of oversighting and legislating properly? Because the executive is here, but now it has full control and full grip of the parliament. With that, with the president actually attaining what we call a supermajority, how is it going to be? Are our members of parliament going to be able to stand firm so that even if the executive decides to do anything that is illegal, then they can stand firm and say, no, this is not right?
We have no parliament. We have no parliament because parliament has willingly joined the executive. They were doing Uhuru's bidding. They are now doing Ruto's bidding. They have been silenced. They have been bribed into silence. The moment even Azimio MPs pushed for CDF, and the Ruto used it to their advantage, to his advantage, then we were off the track. Because parliament today cannot speak against the executive. The executive wamewafinya mahali. Just that CDF was enough, which is illegal from a constitutional point of view, from common sense point of view, and as affirmed by the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court. And yet they were given. They have been bribed into silence. There's no parliament.
So our National Assembly can't.
But that's not the problem. It's not parliament alone. We have many other institutions. We have many other leaders. But what is happening in this country is that all the leaders are going one side across the river, leaving the people the other side of the river. So the divide between the people and their leaders is becoming wider and wider. They are creating a class of their own. And if you look at empires and kingdoms and everything that collapsed, the same trend. The river that separates the people from their leaders is swelling. There's nothing in common. They have in common, the leaders and so what now happened is the people may be consigned to their own problems and suffering. What does that mean? In 2032, 2-3 million only will vote for a president. The rest have given up. It has happened, and there are countries like those even now. But the other problem where the danger is, as the river continues to swell, so does the anger among the people. And when the people cannot take it anymore, they take the law into their hands. And that is how revolutions quite often come. So whatever moves the leaders are making, they are foolishly courting disaster by way of a revolution. You get it? Because, you know, democracy sometimes is just a farce. When leaders pretend to be fighting each other, it is good so that the citizens think there is hope. An intelligent man like me, I know there is nothing. These people are the same. But so long as there's Azimio punching and Azimio is punching and Kenya Kwanza is ducking and receiving 1 or 2 blows, and then Azimio receives 2-3 blows, the people think there is hope. You get it? The people believe and hope there is hope. That there is a future. That things will be better for them. But the moment you all go on one side and now begin to eat with big spoons, and look at the people and laugh because there's no more opposition. People can't see any movement in government, in the leadership. There's no movement. Everything's dead. People are busy eating the leaders. You can breed up apathy or anarchy. Apathy, people say, okay, fine. Mungu tusaidie tu siku moja. Anarchy, because they could take the law in their hands. I said, because you people, we have put you to help us. You have refused, let us help ourselves. And that's how then you see trouble in most countries. Yeah.
With this kind of confusion, of course, we've seen the government has been accused of the executive being in bed with the judiciary and now with the parliament and all these other kind of independent offices. But our president was out there saying very well that the independent offices will work on their own and they will streamline them to make sure that we deliver services to the country. And he also said very well that he does not need some sort of a mongrel kind of government where the position is in government and the government is in opposition. But with now the kind of moves that we've seen taking place, was it sincere of the president to make such kind of sentiments?
Because the president is a politician. That's how we must understand what he says and what he does. You campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. The president has said he wants independent institution to function, actually be strengthened. He has said he wants a robust opposition, but the president does the opposite. He says, I want a robust opposition, I don't want a mongrel government, and he goes ahead to poach the opposition and entertain these leaders in State House in broad daylight. He says he wants independent institutions. He doesn't want KRA to be used to haunt people the way their people were haunted. He's the one using KRA and talking about KRA and the Uhuru family. They say they don't want DCI to do this. They say they don't want the judiciary to do this. And the Speaker of Senate is asked to announce the new House leadership in terms of the minority whip. He doesn't, and does dilly-dallying, goes dilly-dallying, buying time in just making an announcement until the courts appear with produce a court order. How would you convince Kenyans that the Jubilee, the Kenya Kwanza leadership, especially the House leadership, was not talking to the judiciary? I mean, why were you waiting? Why didn't you make a straightforward ruling? You buy your time until such a time a court order is issued by a court. So you see, those are the things that people look at and say, yes, you say you want independent institutions, but on the ground, things are different. You say KRA should do its job, but we find you doing the work of KRA. Before KRA gives a demand letter to anybody in the Kenyatta family, why are you on the rooftop shouting about taxes not paid? Do you work with KRA? Has KRA issued any demand to Kenyatta? Has KRA said? And then yet the people KRA had signaled out for tax evasion, those who are not paid tax, you have gotten them off the hook and given them jobs. You know it is, but I must advise us as Kenyans. Napoleon said, the line between what is sane and what is insane is so thin. From the sublime to the ridiculous, the line is just one step. People think, I think, is it human nature or we've been so much in peace we don't know this? People think the countries that are in problems or that have been in problems, the things were so obvious and the steps were so clear, 1, 2, then there was anarchy. No! One morning you wake up and the world, you know, it has collapsed. Just one morning. So what countries do is to avoid that morning. To ensure that morning that will come with a new world that is upside down. You minimize the possibilities of waking up one day and finding the Kenya you have known is gone. You do your part to ensure that day doesn't come. So when you are a speaker of a Senate, don't go into cheap games of impunity. That one game you are doing could be what is going to contribute to anarchy tomorrow. So you avoid it. Munakaa hata kama na president na mnawaambiana wenyewe watu tumewaangusha. These people are already down. These guys are already. Why do we need to bother them? They're already down. By the way, who can oppose Ruto really? Who? This guy is unassailable. Why is he adding issues through impunity? Because he's okay, he's safe, according to me. Even Raila with his rallies would go nowhere if Ruto was doing the right things. And the right things are do not try to bend the law. Do not embrace impunity. And above all, let Kenyans see you are doing something about their suffering. Raila can make all the noise he wants. So long as you are addressing the suffering of Kenyans, so long as you are doing the right politics, so long as you are avoiding matters of impunity, acts of impunity, nobody can touch you if you are Ruto. Nobody. Yes.
Well, do the right thing and stop politicking. That is the word from Professor Herman Manyora here to the President and the Kenyan government at large. Ladies and gentlemen, we are hoping that these leaders are actually listening and they will take into account everything that we are saying here so that they actually implement it and help solve the problems that are actually bedeviling Kenyans on the ground. Please do not fail to tune into our programs that will be coming here next. We have Jedel Kabiro with his political conversations as always, and Richard Mwenje with the political conversations on Siasa Brigade and very good analysis on Business Glide. Till we have this conversation again, have yourself a very lovely day. My name is Evans Okinyi.